This is sex. Everyone gets what they want. This is Sexploration. Explore. Play. This is Sexploration with Monika. Sex is proof that God loves us and wants us to have fun. Sexploration with Monika at sexplorationwithmonika.com. Welcome. Friday night in San Francisco. All the lights of the city are going to come on in just a few hours, and imagine all the possibilities. Because I always think whenever I'm looking at the San Francisco skyline that every single light is someone's experience, is a possibility, is just a party waiting to break out. Some good stuff. We're on FCC Free Radio. We're also live on the FCC Free Radio Facebook page on Facebook. I have Anne Galjour here, who is the screenwriter and producer, one of the producers of...
Yes, I'm the playwright.
Playwright?
Yes, from the Sisterhood of the Travelling Pantsuits Theater Collective.
That they have a theater collective. And I love that they travel because the world needs more pantsuits.
That's right, specifically at this time.
I know.
Yes.
Oh. Why did the pantsuits have to leave us in the first place?
I know.
Okay, but we're keeping it together just for the radio show. Anyway, so this is a comedy, Get Gandhi, a radical feminist comedy. And I didn't realize that radical feminism could be this funny.
Right. I mean, it's, you know.
Because usually we're pissed off. We're like, sexism! Why?
Yeah, patriarchy.
I know.
Yeah,
it's so annoying.
Right. So it had to be a comedy because these are outrageous times.
Indeed.
And part of the title is that it's a seriously radical feminist comedy. And so that's part of the comedy, that the characters are so serious in their pursuit.
Well, that's why it's so funny. And you seriously do not know when it's a joke. Because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. And in some ways, like that whole bitch joke.
Right.
Like many people did not know if they were supposed to laugh or not.
Right.
Because and I don't know, were the characters wave feminists? Were they first wave, second wave, third wave feminists?
So we'd say that this is a multi-generational view
Oh,
of
absolutely.
feminism. So certainly Miriam, the academic, the character in her 70s, is certainly second wave feminism, as is her, one of her students, Helen, who's in her 50s, the yoga slash belly dance instructor.
Belly dancing instructor.
Yes.
I loved it so much that she was a belly dancing instructor.
Well, of course, because this is also a homage to when I first came to the city, and my best friend, I dedicated my work to my teachers,
right,
who were radical feminists, and one of them, my best friend, Jeanette Cool, is also a belly dancer, and through her I met these radical feminist belly dancers, and that was part of the heyday of the belly dance movement in San Francisco in the 1970s and into the 80s, and even now there's a strong community.
Yeah, with Fat Chance belly dance.
Yes.
And you didn't realize, I don't know if you were living in Alaska like me, you didn't realize that belly dancing was so feminizing. Like if you were a feminist and you started to belly dance, you're like, oh, actually this is all about female power and being in my body. And
completely.
And it's not about like just jingling your moneymaker for fellas for dollars in your cleavage. No.
No. In fact, if you look at the history of it, the history of it back in, I want to say, the 17th century, in parts of the Middle East, these were educated women who were dancers and would also read literature. They knew literature very well. They were poets. It stems from that tradition. And as I did a little bit more research, the roots of belly dancing actually probably come from India, which I didn't realize till after we were in rehearsal.
Oh,
For
funny.
the play, right.
Yeah.
But so it just made a lot of sense. This is a love letter for me in terms of my teachers. Well, my teachers, the women.
Your feminist teachers?
Yes. And I am Cajun. I grew up in a little hick town in Louisiana. And I came to San Francisco in 1980 because this was the happening place.
For women's studies and
for
all
theater,
of the
theater
and the culture
and dance
and you mentioned the Cockettes.
Oh my gosh!
I love the Cockettes.
Who was more outrageous and creative
and sparkly and queer?
Oh yes, but gloriously
queer.
So in a way that was specifically San Franciscan.
Yeah, and in North Beach.
Right. So it honors that. I hope that I honor the city that taught me so much. And I came here as a recent graduate in theater from a small university in Louisiana, and I came and I learned. The city allowed me to grow as an artist, and so I started out as a solo performer, and then those solo performance pieces grew into plays. And so the genesis of Get Gandhi started out in 2014. I was looking for a way to work with some actresses whose work I deeply, deeply respect and admire, Jerry Lynn Cohen and Patty Silver. And both of these women are word-for-word theater company charter members, but I'm a longtime admirer of their work. And so we started getting together and eating and talking and looking for material, and we stumbled upon...
So was there a real statue of Gandhi?
Oh, Monika, you don't know the statue of Gandhi behind the Ferry Building in San Francisco?
I mean, I saw the pictures, and I was like, I don't remember a statue behind the Ferry Building.
It's behind the Ferry Building, along the Embarcadero. And I believe it's been up there since 1988. And every once in a while, somebody rips off Gandhi's glasses or nicks his staff or something. So it's got a bit of a history.
Because he's a controversial character, as we found out, which, a lot of people don't know that Gandhi was not the most sympathetic guy if you are, a feminist.
Well, he's controversial, which makes him the stuff of theater.
That's
I think.
true. Yeah.
So when we were looking at material in Mary Daly's, the wonderful radical feminist theologian and philosopher Mary Daly, in her seminal work, Pure Lust, she talks about Mahatma Gandhi's controversial brahmacharya practice, his practice of celibacy. But
it's not just celibacy. Let's just get this straight.
Well, what made it controversial was that he would, to test his seminal continence, his purity of spirit,
he would lie naked,
and have young women and girls lie naked with him in the bed,
his relatives,
even his great-grandniece, to test his seminal
whether or not
continence.
he's pure.
Right.
And of course, sometimes he's not going to be totally pure all night long. And then you get this visual image and you're like, why?
Right. And he just felt bad. Like, oh, God, I'm so sorry, God. I haven't
and the
reached
part
my
where he's
purity.
Like,
so it was nothing about her, right?
About the mother. And he's like sobbing for his mother. And you're like, this young naked woman holding him. He's sobbing. It's Gandhi.
Yeah, he would have... In the middle of the night, he'd wake up shivering, and he'd have these young women
covered in
hold
cold
him,
sweat or something. Yes,
hold him and call him mother. I mean, so it's complex. He's complex.
Yes,
he certainly did extraordinary things,
and especially for India with colonialism.
Correct. He brought women out into the streets to help protest against
peacefulness.
The British.
Right.
Okay. But
nonviolence.
Well, I don't know what you call what's going on in the bed, but those young girls.
Yeah, that was a little coercive.
That doesn't really sound like consent to me, because he, some of these women would cry a lot, and people would go, "Why are you crying?" One of the women we know was very, very upset. Some of his followers.
So did you actually look at the historical documents and you...
There's a fabulous book by Ved Mehta called Gandhi and His Followers, where he talks about this at length, and even he publishes one of the letters from one of his followers who left him. He was so upset by this that he said,
actually lost followers for this.
Oh, yes. Oh,
How
yes.
interesting.
Oh, yes. So it was upsetting to people, but what can I say?
In all fairness.
Right. So.
These were young women and also his relatives who were kind of not, he's such a powerful figure. How are you going to say no to him?
It's scary, and
Right.
it's power.
Right.
Sexual power and misuse of power is what's going on here.
Exactly.
And
it's totally all about rape culture, which is what the Me Too movement was trying to address.
Right.
And I noticed that you did quite deftly drop the Me Too hashtag without being too obvious about it.
Right. Well, we had been working on this since 2014.
Which was before Me Too.
Right. And we had a draft. We had a pretty good draft, and we were sending it out to theaters, and there were people who were interested in it, but they were afraid of the subject matter. And finally, with the Me Too movement and Time's Up, we said, we got to do this. If nobody's going to produce us, we will self-produce this play. And that's what we did. And that's
I was
why we're up
wondering
there.
about that, because it's so hard to get feminism. Many people don't even want to say that they're a feminist, even though they are. For instance, Sarah Palin, totally a woman with power who doesn't just work at home. Hello. She's not just, taking her children. She's actually benefiting from feminism, and she's not willing to call herself a feminist. And even, lots of women.
Well, that's part of a generational divide that I think we also get a taste of through the characters, the younger female, certainly the daughter, Helen's daughter in the play, Rebecca, who rejects.
Well, she was
feminism.
raised as a
Right.
feminist and
Right.
went to the marches. And then she's like, well, I just want to be normal and accepted.
Right.
And so she kind of backlashes and goes the other direction.
Right.
But it's so cute because then you see her in her alone time with her dad. And her dad, basically kind of raised her, and the hair brushing and the sweetness.
Because he was relieved of sex roles.
Right.
And that's one of the gifts of feminism.
Right.
That people are free of sex roles. He was really into being the nurturing parent. And it did free Helen up to pursue her goals. So that's part of the liberation of it. So, so I'm glad you're pointing that out, Monika.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's just absolutely part of the process where I think we're beginning to get more and more open as a society. And certainly men are starting to think about how they are able to let go of the masculine sex roles and gender roles as we kind of try to imagine them. But, I think men actually have a long way to go because they're not ready to let go of the masculine identity. We're just starting to see, men's rights movements, which is kind of a backlash against feminism. And they don't realize they're included in feminism.
That's right.
Men can be released from their gender roles.
And look who we have here, at the pseudo helm of our country.
I know.
Pseudo strong man. You know what I'm saying? That this is, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so this is the backdrop of this comedy. And so
Yeah.
we've had a lot of really great.
And you didn't realize that this, of course, was going to happen because you started in like 2014
Right.
working on this play.
Right, right. And so, we've had a lot of great positive responses from people. And so we're down at Z Below in San Francisco at 450 Florida Street. And we have this weekend, and next week the show runs through August 26th. And it's really a lot of fun every night for every performance.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I saw it with a man who's not a feminist at all. And I would say he's kind of sexist. And he was laughing.
Sure.
He thought Bob was hilarious.
Well, there's a lot to laugh with. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I'm having fun. We need a comedy.
Yeah.
It's the only way to talk
We
about
really
this
do
stuff.
need
These
a
are
comedy.
outrageous times,
Yeah.
and we need a comedy to be able to talk about these difficult issues. And even the B word, which is part of the generational divide.
You mean bitch?
Yes.
Oh.
But you see, that's my
Well,
generation.
see, the thing is
Yeah.
that, I don't know, what was it? Susan Faludi wrote that book, Bitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just, we now reclaimed it. And of course, your third feminist, the little feminist of the group, talked about how we reclaimed, and you're like, yes, I am a bitch. I am reclaiming my power. I'm re-owning that word. But I mean, I know that does feel different to people in a different generation.
Well, I'm 60 and 3/4 years old, and I have a hard time with that word, but that's part of the dialogue and the debate and the comedy. And I also teach college students, and when I talk about this, they look at me, all my students look at me, oh, Ms. Galjour, that train left the station a long time ago.
Right.
So
We're
they get
over it, bitch.
Right.
We're
I know
over
they
it.
get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How do you feel about bitch, Susan?
Well,
You're
I think I'm a badass bitch.
right, exactly. See,
And I'm
some people-
57.
Right. Some people.
So I'm not
feel-
sure it's your age. I think it might be your mindset.
It might be. It might
Maybe,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, some people feel very safe around that word, and some people don't. And I think that is, that I can see that's totally part of your background.
Okay, you know what? Let me get more specific. I'll get really honest because we're all girls here, right?
Lay it
Yeah,
on
we
me.
are.
Okay. So I think for me, you can call me that word,
Uh-huh.
If you,
but a man can't call me that word.
sure,
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Yeah.
They couldn't call me that word.
Sure, because it would be used in the pejorative. How about if I were a man and I said, "And you're a badass bitch"? How would you feel if I were a dude?
If
Maybe I
knew
should
he
say it even
approved of
lower.
me. If I knew
Right.
he was coming from a place of approval,
How would you feel?
right?
Would you
I'm
still not like
sure.
it?
I don't. I don't know. I'm from the country where there's.
I'm from the
He-
country.
Yeah, I
He
just
rarely means it in a good way.
right. So it's still, it just resonates. To
Yeah,
me, but that's
it's
just
a word
me.
with sting for you.
Right. It's got some sting. But let me just be, again, a girl could call me that. Maybe,
Yeah.
But I'd have a hard time with a man because what would he know
Disrespectful.
about it? What would he know about it?
Right. Yeah.
You
What
know,
does he know about
what-
protecting his puppies?
What does he know, man? What does he know about, being
Female
a
power.
female, being one of, a vilified, minority in this culture here, be a woman here and see what it's like.
Yeah, have a vagina and
Yeah,
see what it's
right,
like.
or feel experience what it's like. So I'm
Well, let
just-
me ask you
yeah.
another question about bitch. So if someone calls me a bitch and they mean it and it's pejorative and they're like, "You're such a bitch," and I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Sometimes I am." Like that is also my experience, which is I'm okay sometimes being a bitch. Are you?
I guess, but as a writer, I'd probably want a more specific word. Sometimes, so this is where I'm at. I'll be on. Look, look. I'm a recent grandmother. And
Yeah.
it was like, when my grandson was born 2.5 years ago, an alarm went off,
Uh-huh.
and I just stopped cursing because I had.
It's a good
Oh.
idea.
the tongue of a sailor.
Because they pick
Right,
up
they pick up
everything.
that
I was
stuff.
Yeah.
saying
And then for me, it
scheisse
became-
and merde when I was 2.
Right. Yeah, but it was like, for me, it's just me now. I'm only speaking for myself.
Sure.
for me, it's like lazy. It was like lazy speech. It was.
It is
like,
lazy.
I want to just get
Not
more
very
specific.
descriptive.
Yeah.
I want to get more specific here, so that. But that's just me, and I love the way we are living in the dialogue here and the debate
Absolutely.
about all of these things, and that's what this comedy, that's what the play is all about. And
Yeah.
that's what we get to do every night at See Below in San Francisco for the run of the play. So, yeah.
I actually wanted to talk about that a little bit because I oftentimes get hung up on words that people usually associated with genitals and women, like, I'm just going to say them, dick and cunt and pussy. You're such a pussy.
You're using some of my favorite words, just
I know,
FYI.
Me too. And even fuck. Like, I think the word
That's my number one
fuck
favorite.
is sacred. I think, people should
They're very
talk about
empowering.
the F word when with like some amount of awe, because it is such a sacred thing. The F word is so personal and visceral and meaningful. I would never F word with someone that I didn't think was profoundly neat, right? Never, 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 never. And so to me, like words like, you're such a dick, you're such a pussy, you're da 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 da. Like, why are we demeaning our genitals and our passion and our sexiness? Why are we using them in such a pejorative and demeaning way? Like, why aren't we reclaiming these words and saying, I
Why
am
doesn't
a
dick
cunt.
mean a staff
Yes,
of
'cause
power?
I am so powerful. Yeah, exactly. And I am.
It is our power seat.
And if I'm not going to say someone's a dick when I think he's bad or punishing or rude or I don't know
If
what.
someone calls us a pussy, we should say, "You wish."
Or like
You wish you were one. I'm glad I am one.
There's nothing weak about pussy
No, nothing.
because babies come out of there,
Yeah,
and it is
it's
our
powerful.
seat of
Well,
power.
it is our seat of creativity. It is our seat of vitality. It is our
Of
seat of
power.
energy.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's something we do that they can't.
Make
Okay?
babies.
Right. We bring in the divine.
And
okay?
have 5-minute orgasms.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff
Right.
they can't do.
Right.
It's sad.
But I want to
The guys
stick
can
with
have multiple
the
orgasms.
words, because the experience of saying those words through the body. I mean, what is sound? Sound is
Yeah.
air vibrating through the skeletal structure. And so even the experience of going,
Yeah. It just feels
so
good.
just it's the feeling and the
Yeah.
experience of it. So it's, it's not just the word, but it's the experience of saying the word, the sound vibrating through your
Right.
skeletal structure. It's all of it,
The
So-
vibrations.
right. The vibrations.
And vibes. What are we in this world but vibrations?
That's right. We emit vibrations. So true. So true.
So we're here with Anne Galjour of Get Gandhi, A Radical Feminist Comedy, and Susan Bratton.
I snuck in the studio.
Snuck in the studio
just
to
so I
talk
can say
about
dirty words.
Well, I think it's important that we talk about these dirty words because they do have meaning. And I
Loaded.
invited you to be part of our kind of roundtable feminist discussion. Also, because I really need to know more about these sex positions that you write about in your Revive Her Drive newsletter. It's so interesting. So we're going to talk about that later
Great.
in
We
the
get
show.
to talk about sex positions?
Yeah, we are.
I
And
heard you
also,
also want to talk about breast massage.
I do because
Excellent. I had one last night just so I could bone up. Kidding, I have them all the time.
bone up.
I know. I'm going to drop as many dirty little innuendos as possible.
It's Friday night,
I'm
yes.
so glad you're here. So anyway, just around, we could talk about FCC Free Radio is where you can get the show, and Tim Bratton just found a parking place. So welcome to the studio. And we are also going to talk about a little bit of my next journey, which is how I pay for this show. It's brought to you by getrealestate.us. And that's all I really need to say about it. That's my website.
Can I thank Get Real Estate?
Oh, yeah,
dot
please
US.
do.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
for
you,
bringing us.
realestate.us.
Thank you,
I appreciate being here
getrealestate.us.
too.
Yeah, this is why I
awesome.
can do this sexploring because, you know, God bless America, but they really don't pay you to talk about sex on the radio
Yep.
in this country. And I know that it was probably difficult for you to get Gandhi on stage.
Well, who's supporting women in their 60s to produce theater? No, if you're in your 60s and you're a woman and you've got this play, you got to get up and do it yourself. We raised the money ourselves, so that's why we're up there. We're doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, sex positive feminism is also very, it's not part of the national discourse because, I mean, certainly you see all of the backlash with Sesta Fosta and sex workers. I mean, they can barely even do their business anymore because our legislation, and especially with President number 45, he is doing his darndest to do as much as he can to oppress women in all the ways that they make money, you know, particularly with sex work, you know. So back to the Travelling Pantsuits. Why are you produced by the Travelling? Does that have something
That's
to
our
do with
theater
Hillary?
company. Well,
I mean, I know the pantsuit is kind of a Hillary thing.
right. Well, Nancy Carlin, our director, I mean, we get together and eat and read the scenes of the play and discuss the play. And over dinner one night, when we realized in November of 2017 that if this play was going to see the light of day, we would have to produce it ourselves. We just decided, well, you know, what are we going to call ourselves? And Nancy Carlin came up with the idea of the Sisterhood of the Travelling Pantsuits Theater Collective, and so that's how that came together, and that kind of rode on the heels of.
Are they polyester pantsuits?
Oh,
since
Pantsuits
you're in your
Nation.
60s?
No. This is San Francisco. We're natural
It's all
fiber.
organic,
Yeah.
organic fabric in our pantsuits.
Right, yes,
And are
yes.
they pastel colors like the colors of cereals or things, or what are
Right.
they? Are they like shocking? Are they tie dye because you're in San Francisco?
Well,
what do these
each have
pantsuits
our
look like?
we each have our different personalities. You know, I kind of have my pinstripe pantsuit.
Pinstripe.
Sherilyn's got her
That's-
yoga
that's
pants. and
powerful.
so-
Yeah.
I like a pinstripe.
Yeah. So Nancy does have some pastel from a recent trip to France. She's got her pastel colors. And
So there are really pantsuits
but
involved in this
for a
brand
photo.
of feminism.
That was just for a photo that
Got
we
it.
took. Yeah. So
Got
so
it.
that's what we called ourselves, because you got to name yourself something when you go out.
Yeah.
You know, to try to get some money and raise money, and that's our organization.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you see your play as at all sex positive? I mean, certainly the Coquettes and the reference to the Coquettes is sex positive.
Oh yes, yes, and we want to. What we really see the play doing is contributing to two national conversations about women's issues and about what constitutes sexual assault, and specifically non-consent, and also questioning hero worship.
They kept saying, put him on the pedestal, take him off his pedestal.
Right.
You know?
Right, exactly. So so that's two national conversations we have going on right now. And so this play is part of that, extends the dialogue and the debate. And I mean, we were appalled by the election. I mean, we really, it was devastating, you know. So this is part.
Fully devastating.
Yeah, right. So it's part.
I cried the whole next day.
Right, and I had students at the university who really couldn't go to school. They were
I couldn't go
frightened
to
and
work.
depressed.
Mhm,
Yeah, so,
yeah.
but so we consider our work part of a national response team to this, you know.
To this situation.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
I was in a
yeah.
yoga class in Oakland the next day, and we were all crying. All of the women in the yoga class in Oakland were like, we were in child's pose, like quaking, just because we thought Hillary was going to win, and she did not.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
Yeah.
It was a big surprise.
Yeah,
And look what's
huge.
up now. I mean, they want to push through this conservative Supreme Court justice candidate, and I mean, you know, they just want to, control everything.
I know. At least we have still the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Oh my
who
gosh.
is with us, and we're learning more about her and her movie coming up. That's so exciting.
That film is fantastic. Everybody should see it.
Oh, you've seen it already?
Oh my gosh.
should see it.
My gosh. She's going to outlive this.
Yes! I love her.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's
amazing.
She's a keeper. We need
She's
to keep her.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what does sex positive feminism mean to you, Susan?
Sex positive feminism means women having equality and enjoying their sexuality.
Or at least having the ability to say yes and no to what they want sexually,
Well, I think that's consent,
right?
which would be a separate category.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons I'm kind of like trying to mix it up and have kind of a roundtable discussion about feminism and sex positive feminism, because I think that with Sexploration with Monika, I think a lot of people didn't realize that this was a sex positive show. I mean, they knew it was about sex, but they didn't realize maybe that I was a feminist. And I really want to kind of get behind that and kind of push it a little bit more, because I think the reason that women can talk about sex and we can make it safe, I mean, I think Me Too is a feminist movement. And I think creating consent culture is all about women having more power. And that's the reason I wanted to do this show, was because I had so many experiences growing up where I realized that men were trained to not take no for an answer, and women were always trained to be sweet and polite and, potentially generous, but and not hurt anyone's feelings. And they didn't really, I didn't learn that I needed to punch people in the face if they weren't taking no for an answer. And so I just really wanted to give women, and obviously myself, a safe space to talk about sex frankly, because I find it so empowering to be able to say, and especially after doing this show for 10 years, I mean,
I'm really proud of you for that.
Oh, thanks.
I came in. At least, has it been 10 years?
Actually,
or
it's been
longer?
12. Yeah.
12 years. I was going to say, I thought it was 13.
Yeah.
I think I was one of your very first guests that you ever had. And for me to come back a dozen years later and be sitting here doing another show for you, high five, mama! Woo!
Wow.
High five. Woo! I mean, that's so awesome that not only are you still doing the show, I'm still teaching sex advice, and we're still doing it all these years later. And it is a tough place to exist.
And
the
it's
space of positive
ever-changing.
Sexuality. It is.
Exactly. Yeah.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
And I am honored and thrilled and happy for you to be here.
Yay. So you are one of the, you were one of the first people working in online marketing of sex positive products. I know you did female ejaculation with Tallulah Sully's.
Yeah, I'm relaunching that. I've been
sweet.
everything squirty lately.
Yay.
I know.
Well, so many people don't even know that women can ejaculate still.
I know. I've been doing a bunch of research on it, and people they're still having the conversation. It's pee. No, it's not. It's pee. No, it's not. And I'm like, Jiminy Christmas, talk about underfunded research.
In my human sexuality
you can tell,
class,
every single aspect of what's in semen,
Right.
luteinizing hormones, serotonin, testosterone. I'll give you the list of 26 ingredients and their metric volumes.
Yeah.
But what that female ejaculate, people think
Even
it's still
exists?
pee, or
Right.
even exists, or
You see-
that all women can't do it is
Right.
nutso.
Another example of discrimination.
Yeah.
Another fine example of discrimination.
Well, we're changing it.
And not seeing,
Yeah.
but for a long time.
Yeah.
Not seeing us as three-dimensional human beings.
And separate biology.
Right. Separate biology, worthy of research.
Yeah.
Worthy of investment.
It's
and all
happening
of this.
now.
Right. But look at how long it's taken. Right. Same thing with cancer. I'm
breast
thinking of
cancer.
breast cancer.
Yeah.
I've just had so
Absolutely.
many friends who've had breast cancer.
No,
and
I
just when
know.
I think and the push that it took. But I don't mean to bring put
No,
a
no,
downer
no.
on it, but I'm just
That's what we're
saying, look
doing.
how long everything.
get enough
right,
without a
right,
down.
right.
The women and orgasm. Like, how long did it take for people
Right.
to be like, oh, I think women do actually have orgasms?
You know what's so interesting too? I think the
At
time
all.
will come when women's orgasms will be. It's so funny. I just looked up and I saw a sign that says "You're a fucking cunt" right up there. There's a
I
sticker.
know, isn't that
Try not
funny?
to be a dick.
Right.
So funny. They are everywhere. One of the things that I think is interesting is that as we start to understand women's orgasmic potential,
Which is profound.
men are getting left in the dust because
know.
they have this mono something. I don't know this.
Monochrome, maybe?
Mono something view of
Well, they
their
don't-
own orgasmic potential. They think, oh, I ejaculate, I have an orgasm and I ejaculate. When in reality, men are equally as orgasmic as women.
Yeah, and they
Equally.
limit their orgasm to the crotch
Just
sneeze,
because they
and
don't
it's
know.
just not fair to them.
Just like women limit their orgasm to a clitoral orgasm. I'm
Right.
like, oh, you could touch my labia and I can come just as well. I mean, once you train your body, once you know and
Right.
you learn,
Right.
you can have it all. So I think it's just a matter of time. But someday there'll be a radio show where men are sitting around talking about how they've, have to come from behind, quote unquote, because they've, been, suffering under this single orgasmic experience. So
Right. Yeah. Well,
I
they
can
don't
see that too. I can
they
see
don't
that day
know
coming.
their full orgasmic potential
Yeah,
coming.
as many as I can.
But
I'm going to
up.
do as many as I can.
Sweet. Okay. Do you want to tell us about the breast massage or the sweet spot pillow position first? Which do you think is?
Well, I have two things. So one is something called my breast massage master plan. And I created that technique for, Monika mentioned earlier that one of the programs I first created was a program called Revive Her Drive. So I'm a publisher of sex techniques, passionate lovemaking techniques. But one of the programs I created was Revive Her Drive for men in relationship whose wives no longer wanted them for sex or not for the frequency that the men wanted. And because they'd never got any education in understanding how to woo their woman, seduce her, turn her on, open her to her pleasure potential, create the trust that she can have for surrender, help her
and a lot
overcome
of
her body
people
shame.
let the juiciness out of their relationship, and they're only domestic partners.
And he forgets to romance her and begs her for sex, which annoys
Oh
her.
my
and
God,
then he
begging
checks
for
out
sex
emotionally.
is not a
and,
good way of doing it.
You know what happens,
Yeah.
right? So I created Revive Her Drive, and in doing so, what I helped men understand was how to turn your wife back on. You have to romance her. You can't just expect sex. Number two, you have to start touching her body in a nurturing and loving way, not in a way that is just to try to get sex. You can't only touch her when you're trying to get in her pants. Number three.
Oh my God. Yeah, of course. You should say that more slowly, just in case someone wasn't paying attention. You can't touch your woman only when you want sex. You have to be loving all the time.
Yeah, having a sensual, intimate connection with her all the time, creating
Yeah.
lots of oxytocin together.
Yeah, oxytocin.
Yeah, that's my favorite high.
Yeah, everyone wins.
Well, post-orgasmic bliss, which I'm sure includes a cocktail of a lot of hormones, including
Yeah.
oxytocin. And so,
Vasopressin, I can name them off, but that's not the interesting part, right?
yeah. So
Is
what I
getting
said
there.
was,
How do you get there?
You have to keep it going in the bedroom, on the weeknights when you're both too tired for sex, or when she's too tired for sex, or whatever. Try just relaxing together with this breast massage game plan. And so what I explained was that you can do this while you're watching TV, which is great. You can just relax and do this while you're watching TV.
Right.
And the thing is that there are a lot of women who have, I would say probably the majority of women have a lot of body shame around their breasts, not just
Because
other
they're
parts of their
never
body.
quite what you wanted. You kind of wish
Yeah.
they were a little bit more or a little bit less or a little bit something.
Yeah.
And then or over here instead of there. And it's like,
Yeah.
why can't we just love them?
And yet men look at the women's breasts and they're like, I love them so much. And yet they don't even play with them enough. So
Right. They
what
really
I wanted
don't.
to do was create a way that you could have a little bit of weeknight foreplay without it feeling like it needed to go any further.
And it doesn't even have to be the end game of sex.
No, it's not.
It's just for
this is not
funsies.
actually foreplay to
Playing
sex.
with the girls.
Right.
playing with the girls.
Playing with
Exactly. Get the girls out and play with them.
Aw.
And so the idea was, okay, you're watching TV in bed. A lot of people do that. Or you're watching TV on the couch if you don't have other kids at home or what have you. And you, as the masculine, you sit up in bed a little bit and you put a pillow on your chest, and then she lays back against you with her head on the pillow.
Oh, okay.
And then you have your hands there so you can reach around her and play with
A
the
reach
girls.
around.
A reach around. You can play with the girls. And what I taught guys was, number one, use a really nice emollient, like organic coconut oil. Maybe you put some aromatherapy, essential oils in it, something like that, so that you've got a nice slidey.
You're not going dry.
Healthy
Right.
lube.
Right.
Get a towel as well, along with your massage oil. And I don't ever like to put anything on my body that is, and I recommend no one does, that has a lot of chemicals in it. You don't,
Sure.
because your skin is the largest organ of your body. It's sucking all that stuff in. So a nice organic coconut oil with
Your
some
largest
essential.
sex organ, I'd like to say.
Yes, exactly.
Your skin is your largest sex organ.
Well said.
Right.
And then what a man will typically do, because he's testosterone driven, so he's like,
He's gonna go straight to the nipple.
straight to the nips. And so what I do is I say, I am mentally smacking your hands away from those nipples. Don't touch the nipples
Right.
until
You have to get there
she's
slowly.
ready.
Yeah, it has to
Yeah.
be like,
So the first place you start is you start with her neck and her shoulders, and then you start with her sternum, her breastbone, which feels really good, and the little divots between underneath her collarbone, above and below her collarbone. And then you stroke the sides of her body on the left and right side beside her breast. You stroke her body and you come up, down, and around and up the center
because you know
of her
that
chest.
part gets a little irritated with the bra strap.
Well, you haven't even done the underboob yet. You're still circling around. What the concept I tell guys is, think about a bullseye. You start from the outside ring in. It's actually, in a way, probably a bad analogy, because most guys would be like, don't I shoot for the center? No, you actually don't. The center's the nipples. You want to work your way toward. You want to always start from the extremities and work your way in. You want
Right.
to calm down
And
her
it's
nervous
also,
system.
right, gonna be more stimulating because you're working in, and
Yeah.
it's like,
You're bringing the blood flow to the breasts.
Aha.
Breasts have
Blood
a lot
flow.
of
It's
erectile
all about blood
tissue
flow.
to them. And a guy really understands the concept of erectile tissue because he loves his erection. And so you
Right.
say, you're giving her breasts erections. But the way that you do that is you bring a lot of blood in, you spend a lot of time really massaging the breast. But first you start with the underneath. You do that under boob where it kind of hangs down, if it does hang down, and you rub that because it never gets quite the light of day there. So it's really nice
Yeah.
if you take one breast and lift it up and just rub the bottom of the breast tissue there. That just feels
oh, I bet it feels so novel because it's not getting a lot of love.
No, it's not getting light. It's not getting love. And then
And lots of guys don't ever touch it. They only touch your nipples and nothing else.
exactly. And your entire breast tissue is incredibly erogenous, as is your sternum, as is your neck. There's a lot of erectile tissue in your neck. That's why you like to get your neck bit. That's why you like hickeys when you're a teenager.
Oh, the neck biting.
Because it's
well, and also
so
all the
good.
pheromones.
Yes, exactly, which is nice as well. And then I say, stroke from the bottom up the top, but slide by the nipples. Don't touch them. Like if you're even going right up the front of her breast, start at the bottom, rub up, but like let some air flow around the nipples. Don't touch them, so that she can really relax. Because what people don't understand is that arousal begins with relaxation. Your nervous system is sympathetic, parasympathetic.
Right.
So it's a stair step. And so what you want to do is you want to really let her relax, and then you want to bring
Build
her up.
the stimulation.
And when you begin to get near the nipples, you're playing with the whole breast. And actually, breast tissue likes squeezing a lot. And so you can squeeze it, you can palpate it, you can kind of roll it and knead it through your fingers, and you'll feel it like poof, starting to blossom.
Oh, and get engorged.
Exactly.
Building blood flow.
That's
And
right.
pretty soon, even without touching her nipples, her yoni is going to start to have some contractions, orgasmic contractions. And that's
Right.
just going to bring some lubrication to her vulva. It's going to make her start feeling more turned on. on. It's going to bring the oxytocin up for her. She's going to feel closer to you. All of a sudden, you start looking like a guy she does want to have sex with because you didn't go right for the nips. Now, how do you touch the nips? Well, you start around the areola before you touch the nipple. And then it's just little, almost like drive-by brushings. You're playing with her breasts and, ooh, it gets a little stroke. And then the next one gets a little slide by of the finger. And really what you're doing is you're saying, I'm playing with all of your breast tissue here. I'm not trying to dial in FCC free radio.
You're not tuning in Tokyo.
And then you can really enjoy the nipple stimulation, and you can stroke back and forth, up and down, do circles, but incorporate it into the entire breast flow. And then women like different amounts of and strengths of nipple stimulation. And also every woman has that same experience at different times.
Oh, and it's a moving target
because she's
you get
cyclical.
aroused.
And then as she gets aroused. Exactly. So she might like something light at first, but she might want more, a little more, a little more, a little
later.
More.
Yeah.
And so you can say, would you like a little more? Or would you like it harder or lighter? That's what I call two-option leading. Never ask a woman a question she has to think about the answer to while you're
Especially not when
pleasuring
you're
her.
aroused, because your cerebral cortex is shutting down.
You got to keep her in her body, not her brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of saying lighter or harder, would you like me to pull on them or would you like me to swipe across them? Always giving her two choices. She'll know the answer to that. And sometimes if she'll say, I don't know, say, all right, I'll just give you both.
Right. Because sometimes you really aren't going to be able to think of a good answer.
Now, there's a grand finish to this, which is a very loving thing to do is take that little towel that you have beside there. And as you're drying off your hands, you're going to be drying off her chest from all that slippery oil because she's going to want to put her nightie on and go to sleep. And so that's just kind of the cleanup. The aftercare that women really appreciate because we do so much of that for others that having it done for us is really an honor and a blessing. And it's a very reverential way to do things.
And all the oxytocin. Yeah. And the other master plan that I was wondering about has to do with a pillow and a sweet spot and oral sex, which, I think a lot of women really probably like oral sex, and we could talk about it more.
Well, oral sex is the number one way women experience orgasms is through oral sex. But that's really only because, and I think that data might be older. I think the number one way a lot of women achieve orgasm now is just through a vibrator. But having orgasms is a learned skill. And you get better and better as a comer over your lifetime if you put your attention on it. Right. And so though you might start out as having oral sex be like kind of your go-to way, you can do, as my friend Sherry Winston calls it, orgasmic cross-training, which I love that. She's so brilliant.
Oh, yeah, because you really have to do a pleasurable stimulation in two different places to connect those places.
Exactly. So let's talk about the Sweet Spot Pillow Plan. The Sweet Spot Pillow Plan is a cunnilingus sex position. This is where you're going down on her. And the concept is part of my Lover Space series of techniques, which is that you want her and yourself to be totally comfortable so you can get on down there for the long haul. So you can get lost in her pussy with your mouth and your fingers. And what's great about that is that the pillow plan looks like this. She looks like a queen on a throne.
A pillow queen.
A pillow queen, a cunnilingus queen, I think. And so essentially what you're doing is you're putting a big, nice pillow, a long one if you have it, under her butt and her back, or two smaller ones. So you're lifting her up off the bed so that when you get down there on your chest with your neck cocked back to get into her vulva, you're not going to be straining your neck.
Oh,
so
that way it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, you want to take care of the giver and the receiver, right? Everybody's comfort is what's, you get all
everybody
positioned.
Wins.
And the thing that a lot of people think is, well, it's not going to be as good if, he doesn't just throw me down on the bed and dive in. But in actual fact, women like it when 90% of women really appreciate the attention to detail, to comfort for everyone involved. So she's laying on two pillows, and then she takes 2 more pillows on each side of her legs as she butterflies her legs open or throws her legs over those pillows. She's got leg support, so her legs open don't get tired.
So she's not going to get sore either.
Yes, those groin muscles don't get tired. And then she might want pillows for her arms, or she might want them down on the bed. And then she has a pillow or
even
two.
Able to play with his hair.
Yes. A pillow or two, or take pictures of him down there eating her out to text him later and tell him how hot he was and what a great pussy eater he was.
Sure.
It's almost like a restorative yoga pose.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it is restorative yoga.
Yes.
A lot of the things I teach really are very similar to I have my newest book is The Soulmate Embrace, and it's a technique for holding and being held that uses all the pillow positions. So you're propped up as far or as low as you want to go, and then that way you're comfortable, he's comfortable, and you can enjoy yourselves for as long as you'd like to come. And I know for me, I didn't used to even like oral sex, and that's because no one had gone down on me very well.
Right.
And until I got this boyfriend who was a grade A #1 pussy eater, and I was like, oh, okay,
That's
is
what it's
all
like.
You bitches have been talking about. Bitches that I love. And so what was great about that was then I realized, the more comfortable you are and the more you can relax into it and the more your guy really gets into it or your woman gets into it for you, the more you get into it and the more orgasms you can have. And then I can easily be in an expanded orgasmic state for a good 30 or 40 minutes now. From oral
takes
pleasuring
training.
Straight up. It's so nice.
Yeah, you can train yourself.
Yes.
It's something it's like a meditation.
Yes.
Even.
Yeah, you stay in the state and ride the sensation.
Amen, sister. Oh, it's so great to have you on the show again. John Miller just wanted to remind me that we're going until 55. So I want to make sure that everyone gets their websites in and we get to talk about our projects. Sure. So, Anne, what is your next project?
Well, my next project is I'm just writing about food next, and I find
you've got a hunger, Anne.
Well, I do.
Well, oxytocin, man,
sex.
It's so important.
No, really, in theater, food is sex when you think about it.
Oh,
it's really, it is. There's so much there. So, my friend Ellen Sebastian Chang, who's a director and auteur, had told me that years ago, and I've come to believe that there's some. Yes, it is. In theater, at any rate, and if for me, words are my currency. And it is a pleasurable way. I mean, it's a vicarious, sensuous experience. I give you the words, and you experience the movie in your mind, if you will. So, so it's about food next go round. But these days.
And you can find Get Gandhi. It's hashtag Get Gandhi, a radical feminist comedy, and it's at Z-Space below.
Right. So you could go to www.zspace.org to get your tickets. It's running this weekend and next week all the way through August 26th. We hope to see you there.
Beautiful. And Susan?
Well, I'd say my best work is showing up on YouTube right now. I mean, I'm busting out in Bavarian barmaid outfits talking about blowjobs, and I'm doing like sexual energy on the cockpit of space shuttles in a silver jumpsuit. And I'm just like I'm doing a lot of like really fun improvisational costume sex education.
Oh, I can't wait. I bet you
fun.
just like do a great Barbarella.
Oh, wow.
So you can find me if you go to betterlover.com. It takes you right to my YouTube channel. I set up, my husband, Sir Tim, set up one of those fancy redirects for me. Wow. And that's definitely my best work right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got 7 new stimulating sex positions that touch multiple erogenous zones. I've got a whole really hot series on penis growth. A lot of guys have penises that atrophy over time. How do you do that? Or add length and girth? Women want bigger boobs, guys want bigger dicks. That's just how it goes.
I don't know that men really need bigger wieners because...
Well, it's not what they need. It's what they
want. I'm so
want.
happy with what it is already.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of like... Sometimes it gets too big and I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do with that. Yeah. It's very nice.
Yeah. Save that one for me because I'm a giant woman with a giant vagina, so I don't mind giant
My
schlong.
vagina is 8 miles wide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, what's her name? Stormy
I don't remember.
Stormy
but
Daniels.
My
I think her
vagina
name
is
yeah.
8
No, that's not. That's
8
the
miles.
porn star that got the honey
Right,
bunny
yeah,
syndrome.
but my vagina is 8 miles wide is totally worth
Stormy
checking
Large,
out.
I think her name is.
Something Stormy.
Yeah, she has a TED Talk, yeah.
Wow.
Right. She's
Susan
famous for that.
Bratton, thank you so much for coming on Sexploration with Monika. Anne Galjour, Get Gandhi, thank you so much for coming on Sexploration with Monika. This has been FCC Free Radio, and thanks for joining us.